We are very happy to be host to the first ever public announcement of the year-end awards for the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association. Now that is a mouthful that I've been saying a lot recently, so I've sort of gotten used to it, but this is not the entire cadre of the members of the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association, but we do have a good section of them here. And this idea came to me about a year ago when we were doing the preview for the Oscars at our first Dryden roundtable ever last March, only to find out that it has been in Matthew Passantino's head for quite a bit longer than that. He'll be Matt very shortly, but this was always something that he was hoping to do, was to have a public ceremony, not just beyond the awards, but to announce them to a grateful and wonderful public, as we have here. So I am very happy that the Dryden Theatre can be the venue for this first ever ceremony or announcement. And for me, it's really part of bringing sort of the Rochester cinematic community together.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Passantino. I contribute to City Magazine here in Rochester as a film critic. I would like to thank you all for coming today to the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association's, I've been saying for 5 years, so, March 2023 awards announcement. First off, I would like to thank Jared and the entire staff of the Dryden for being such great collaborators on our first in-person announcement. The Greater Western New York Film Critics Association is a collective that began in 2018 when our founder, Jared Mobarak, reached out to a handful of us across Rochester and Buffalo about starting a critics organization to spotlight writers in upstate New York. Our small handful of critics has grown into a roster of 18, and we continue to add members every year. Our work can be found in magazines, online outlets, newspapers, or podcasts. As freelancers, it can be a little bit of everywhere. Forming the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association gave us an opportunity to champion each other's work and champion the movies that we love through our year-end lists, our annual awards, our weekly reviews, and other various opportunities that have arisen in the film space. So why join us here today to see what we have to say is the best in 2023 movies? Most importantly, because 2023 was a really, really great year for movies. And that's just always a fun thing to celebrate. There's a good chance you've probably heard about the unlikely alliance of J. Robert Oppenheimer and Barbie, and the phenomenon that dominated the summer box office. But maybe you haven't heard of Past Lives, maybe you haven't heard of Walter Earl's Taste of Salt, or 1001, or another movie you will hear about today and add to your watch list when you get home. As members of the Greater Western New York Film Critics Association, we want our region to keep the conversation of film going because movies are important to us, and we hope that they would be important to everybody else. So I'd like to thank you again as we go through our 16 award categories. We're going to start with Breakthrough Performance, and we're going to lead up to Best Picture. And our selection for Best Breakthrough Director is Celine Song for Past Lives. Celine Song is our winner this year, and she is joining previous winners Boots Riley for Sorry to Bother You, Olivia Wilde for Booksmart, Darius Martyr for Sound of Metal, Michael Sarnowski for Pig, and Charlotte Wells for Aftersun. It's a testament to Celine Song that her beautiful movie Past Lives is still being talked about exactly 1 year after it debuted at the Sundance Film Festival last year. From the moment many critics saw the movie, they knew they had seen something brilliant and something that would leave a lasting impression. For some of us, it was a long wait till June when the movie was arrived in theaters, but it was worth waiting every agonizing minute. What makes Song a breakthrough director? Her very first movie has made her next movie something to highly anticipate. Celine Song will be making movies for a very long time.
This is a very simple story. A lot of it is just, two characters talking, but she's able to do a lot as a director to elevate the material and make it feel even more personal and intimate. So I have no complaints with that at all. I would have absolutely chosen him, although How to Blow Up a Pipeline was excellent as well.
And the winner is Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, Robbie Robertson is a multi-time collaborator with Martin Scorsese. He's done The Last Waltz, Raging Bull, King of Comedy, Casino, Gangs of New York, Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, and The Irishman. And while he was doing the score for Killers of the Flower Moon, he actually was on location with Scorsese and with the Osage down in Oklahoma to give a authentic score. He didn't really want like a actual like movie score. He wanted something more authentic than your traditional like John Williams or like Howard Shore. He wanted something because it was his heritage as well, because he's part Native American as well. So I really did enjoy his score for that film. And the winner is Hoyt van Hoytema for Oppenheimer. Probably one of my favorite cinematographers personally. He's been a collaborator with Christopher Nolan from Dunkirk, Tenet, Interstellar. So all these movies, like, you have to see on the big screen. You see in IMAX, and he could, even though like Interstellar and Dunkirk and Tenet were all like the big spectacle, he considers Oppenheimer to be his like hardest project yet, because even though he's filming IMAX, even though there's these like little scenes where that again thing with faces, where he's using an IMAX camera, but he's like zoomed in on like Cillian Murphy, and he found that more complex and what Nolan wanted than something big like Interstellar or Tenet. So I think he's one of the best cinematographers out right now.
Okay, so I've been talking about this Maestro and Oppenheimer. More people don't like Maestro. I think part of that is, and tell me if I'm wrong, this is what I'm asking, that somehow, whether it's the editor or the director, you're seeing the difference between a very experienced director and editor. I know there's both women, but the directors, one is much more experienced than the other and is able to have that narrative keep on going and figure out ways to work the time frames and, even have a little bit of a dance on it, right? He's that skilled. And I think with Maestro, Cooper was successful at it on occasion. There's some great scenes in there, but there are other times where he just kind of leaves. It's like the scene is just sort of floating in the middle of space, and you don't really know where it's supposed to go. I'm just wondering if you have a reaction to that.
I think that's a phenomenal observation within itself. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. The difference between Bradley Cooper and Christopher Nolan. I think that it partially comes down to Nolan has made a career of being obsessed with time and like manipulating it. Like almost all of his movies have a non-linear narrative, and so with that, I think it lends itself that Nolan knows exactly from the screenplay that he wrote himself, and Cooper co-wrote Maestro, but he has a clear vision of like he's going to make this movie about Oppenheimer, and he wants to make it as a big blockbuster, but also contained, and I think that's why Oppenheimer was so great. I think Bradley Cooper kind of almost makes two movies where he makes the musical career of Leonard Bernstein, and then he also has the family drama, and he doesn't know exactly how to blend it. And Nolan knows, and he is comparing with the black and white versus the color of the fusion of the political fallout versus the nuclear, the building of the nuclear bomb. And he knows that those are two completely different yet related stories. And I think Cooper never found where his worlds intertwined, as you kind of got on. And so I think that comes with experience. I also think Cooper is acting, and that then he has to focus on all of this and his performance. And Nolan, once he's written the script, can focus on that, and it's a much more particular and specified job. And so I think Cooper, whether he bites off too much or it's just not quite experienced, and like Maestro's a well enough directed film, and I think it's just Cooper needs, I say enough. So I think that is it's an experience that you got at, and I think it's just maybe not a story. I mean, Cooper was attached for a while, but I think Nolan wanted to make Oppenheimer, and he knew he was not ready up to a point. For Cooper to make Maestro his second film, maybe it was just a bit, because Scorsese and Spielberg both tried to make it, and they were like, this isn't a story I feel like comfortable to tell. So, long story short, I think you pretty much hit it on the head. It's just two different skilled directors, and we've seen Star is Born. Cooper's a good director, and he probably has a great film in him. I think he should probably not write the script, and he should not star in it, and just focus on directing. He's gonna get nominated for acting Maestro. There's a reason he's not gonna get directing for Maestro. So that's my 2 cents of thing. Also,
and the winner is still a Michael J. Fox movie. Apologies to any Swifties out there, but a Michael J. Fox movie is a very beautiful documentary about the life of the actor Michael J. Fox and his battle with Parkinson's, and it's a very inspiring story, even though it's sad that a great career was hindered by the diagnosis. I think he's had a very measurable and positive impact on the world in raising awareness through Parkinson's that he wouldn't have had if he was just another leading man. And the winner is The Zone of Interest, directed by Jonathan Glazer. A very powerful and haunting Holocaust film about a family growing up on the outskirts of Auschwitz who are complicit in the genocide of Jews during World War II. While watching the film, I thought of a lot of comments and critiques that other filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick and Michael Haneke have made about the Holocaust in terms of, how do you even depict this? And the way that Glazer and his collaborators went about answering that question is by not really depicting it, but by keeping it in the peripheral, kind of on the borders of the narrative. We never really see the atrocities firsthand. We just have the effects of it lingering on the outskirts of what's a very simple, straightforward narrative about a family just living in one place. And I just thought that was a really haunting and brilliant and effective way to tackle that subject, while also being very respectful as well. So The Zone of Interest is definitely one of the great films of the year, and I think everyone who's seen it would certainly agree. And the winner is The Boy and the Heron, directed by Hayao Miyazaki, the great Japanese master. This is his first film in 10 years, since 2013's The Wind Rises. Many critics and filmmakers thought that would be his last film, but I guess he was so disappointed in his son's output in recent years, he had to come out of retirement just to show him how it's done. The Boy and the Heron is a very beautiful and elegiac animated film that feels like a work of career summation for Miyazaki. It touches on a lot of themes that he's dealt with his entire career in terms of growing up and the loss of innocence and dealing with loss and grief, but in a context that is rooted in Japanese history and fantasy and folklore. It's a very beautifully animated film, beautifully made, whether you watch the Japanese version or the English dub. It's a wonderful experience in either form. It's not just one of the best animated, it's not just the best animated film of the year in my opinion, it's one of the very best films of the year. So definitely worth checking out as well.
First with the international, what is an international film or a foreign language film at this point? Because we've got 3 Japanese films out, but one of them was directed by a German, and the German film was directed by a Brit. So exactly what are we talking about here?
I think a lot of awards value has shifted towards maybe not even so much focusing on, you know, it all in a certain language. You know, some awards bodies will call it like film not in the English language, but now it's kind of, it's really shifted more towards like what country it's produced out of. And so that's what is kind of the main focus of a lot of these nominees.
I feel like just looking at these nominees, I feel like the state of animation is in a good place. I really loved, I was gonna say all these films, not all, almost all of these films. I mean, Boy in the Heron is amazing, Miyazaki is a master. But I love that we're getting things from major studios like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and even Mayhem. And I feel like the release of Spider-Verse a few years back and the sort of freedom that film had with its style, I think has had such an influence. I don't think we would have been able to get a Ninja Turtles movie that looked like a painting if we hadn't gotten Spider-Verse. And so I love the fact that even the major studios are starting to be like, you know, these animated movies don't all have to look the same. It doesn't have to be sort of the cookie cutter Disney style for everything, as much as that works for certain things. I love the variety and the diversity that we're getting. I did also want to jump back because I love to talk about streaming versus theatrical. And I love the fact that streaming has sort of made these smaller movies more accessible to people, but again, I'm biased because I also work in a movie theater, but it's such a different experience watching a film in a theater with an audience. And I was lucky enough to see some of the films we talked about in a theater. Zone of Interest I saw at the Toronto International Film Festival. And I would echo what Matt said about the sound design is incredible, but just even the feeling of watching that movie with an audience is so totally different than what it would be like just sort of alone in your living room. And similarly, The Little did have a limited short run of Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, and those screens were packed. And again, seeing that audience react to that movie very, very differently, but that's such a inspirational, moving story that it was great to see people respond to that live and, you know, collectively. So I'm glad that the theatrical experience isn't going away. It still seems to be thriving as much as it's had its ups and downs, but I still love it, and I'm glad it's going strong.
Yeah, that's the thing about streaming is that you have to have, you know, 10 different streamers to see, you know. I'm a big proponent of the library, and I will always put an order in the library for what, you know, what I maybe don't want to spend $6.99 renting off Amazon. I will put a hold on a library in the Rochester area will likely have a movie you're looking for, is kind of how I look at it. So I am constantly spending 50 cents on transfer fees to rent movies from the library. So I would always say check there first. There are various ways to rent for, you know, once they've been at home, because now the new model is they go to theaters for a period of time and then they're like $20 to rent at home, and like, well, it's still considered like a theatrical period. And then from there they dip down to like a $6.99, $4.99. So if you don't have like you know, some movies are specific to Netflix, still the Michael J. Fox movies specific to Apple, so you do have to have those services, but there are also renting options.
And our best original screenplay winner is Celine Strong for Past Lives. So Past Lives was written by Strong, who was the film's director. Although not based on anything, Strong did note that it is a semi-biographical take on her own life, so she did take things that happened to her and part of her Korean culture. Past Lives also takes a familiar premise: two childhood friends separated at a young age and reunited after years, only to realize they possibly still harbor romantic feelings towards each other. And top of that, up to 11. Song screenplay isn't always about what characters say so much as what they don't say, and it's in these quiet moments and these silences that audiences are forced to fill in the silence with their own perceptions of the characters.
That Barbie was an adapted screenplay, not an original screenplay, but I see you guys have it under original. So anyone want to comment on that? Contribute to the buzz that is going on?
Get our 2 cents in. I mean, it's based on a doll that has been made into 100 TV shows and movies. I think it's a pretty fair change to move into adapted. I think it's weird to do this late in the season when a lot of award shows have already made the distinction. Like, the Academy's on the end all be all. They've nominated actors in lead that it was a clear supporting, or it should have been supporting. And I think so, for whatever the Academy's logic was, it was probably that Barbie's been around for a while, and it's a thing. And so I don't hate the movie.
And our winner is Charles Melton for May December. In Tonahan's unnerving and darkly comic melodrama May December, Charles Melton delivers one of the most indelible performances of the year as John Yu, a man robbed of childhood and years into adulthood, finally discovering who he is and what he wants his life to be. As he begins to approach middle age, Joe finds himself suddenly forced to confront the emotional fallout of his long-term romantic relationship with Gracie, played by Julianne Moore, which began when she was 36 and he was just a 13-year-old boy in junior high. His grappling comes with the arrival of Elizabeth, an ambitious actress, played by fellow nominee Natalie Portman, who drops into the lives of the couple who are now married and have 3 children, 23 years after the tabloid news scandal and criminal case, intending to observe them in order to portray Gracie in an upcoming film inspired by their lives. Her presence sort of propels Joe to ask questions he never thought throughout the time he and Gracie have spent together, questions that for the first time make him consider the possibility that their relationship isn't everything they've told the public and each other for so many years. And Melton is, I think, haunting in his portrayal of a victim of abuse whose mistreatment came within the context of what he had convinced himself was always a safe and loving relationship. There's a physicality to Melton's performance. His kind of timid mannerisms and the way his entire body seems drawn inward make him appear like a child trapped in a man's body. He also lets us see the deep love that Joe has for his children, and the genuinely sweet relationship he has with them anchors some of the film's most tender moments. But through it all, Melton is heartbreaking, and his performance never allows us to lose sight of the wounded boy that's inside. Is Divine Joy Randolph for the holdovers. The role of a grieving mother is one that would seem to invite actors to go big with their performance, but the beauty of Divine Joy Randolph's portrayal of Mary Lamb is the way she consistently underplays the heartache of a woman doing her best to pick up the pieces after the loss of her only son, killed while serving in Vietnam. But when she gets the chance, Randolph delivers just a gut punch of emotion. Working as a cook at a New England boarding school, Mary makes up the third spoke of the holdovers trio of characters who are adrift in their lives, each with their own reasons for holding on to a lot of anger at the world at large. Divine Joy Randolph is the film's true heart. We're always able to see the other characters for exactly who they are, and watching the way that these 3 very different people come to lean on one another and form an offbeat sort of makeshift family is the film's true joy, I think. And Randolph, personally, is an actor who makes me happy every time I see her pop up on screen. I first took notice of her in 2019's Dolomite Is My Name, where she gives a fantastic, attention-grabbing performance, and I'm so thrilled that she's getting the recognition she deserves now. And if you have the opportunity, Dolomite Is My Name is a Netflix film, so I assume it's still on Netflix, so check it out if you get the opportunity. And our winner is Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Giamatti has been turning in wonderful performances in movie after movie for decades at this point. In The Holdovers, he reunites with his sideways director Alexander Payne to play Paul Hunnam, the cantankerous boarding school professor tasked with watching over the students left behind on campus, unable to go home during the extended Christmas holiday. It's a role very much in Giamatti's wheelhouse, but he finds specificity and humanity in the character that could easily have tipped over into a stock type. And as a performer, Giamatti has always kind of excelled and been an expert at walking that line between comedy and drama, and there's plenty of both for him to dig into in David Hemmingson's script for The Holdovers. And there's an empathy displayed to the film's characters, even amidst the sort of blisteringly funny insults they're frequently hurling at each other. And Giamatti brings out the hidden vulnerability of this cranky, aging sort of failure of a professor, underlying all of that bluster that he demonstrates. So we end up believing it when in the end his heart grows 3 sizes that day, and we have no trouble buying that the tender center that we see was always there all along. And our winner is Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. Gladstone gave several great feature performances this past year in The Unknown Country and Fancy Dance, which I hope gets released soon after it premiered at Sundance last year. So I hope more people get a chance to see it, because it's also an amazing film. She's incredible in it. But this is the attention that this role has gotten as one that I hope makes her a star, because she absolutely is one. Martin Scorsese's epic, uniquely American tale of greed and bloodshed finds its conscience in Molly Burkhart, played by Lily Gladstone, an Osage woman who suffers unimaginable loss at the hands of the greedy white men who murder her family and systemically exterminate her people in order to gain control of their wealth and oil-rich land. There is a stillness in Gladstone's performance that's impossible to look away every moment she's on screen. And through her sort of set jaw and steely, watchful gaze, we see her assess the white men who circle her, including Ernest, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who woos and ultimately marries her. And Gladstone's eyes become sort of a window into the pain, hurt, and ultimately betrayal Molly feels as the full extent of her own husband's role in her suffering becomes clear. Gladstone is the story's moral and emotional center, and her commanding presence is Scorsese's secret weapon for ensuring that the story's real-life tragedies remain with us long after the credits roll.
How much of your assessment of their acting comes from the affect that it has on you, the way that it makes you feel versus the technical aspects of it? Matt Passantino.
That's definitely the most important aspect for me, because especially someone like Lily Gladstone, who does so much with often saying so little. And she's not been in a ton of movies, but she's kind of mastered saying a lot without saying much at all, because a lot of people took notice in 2016 when she was in Kelly Reichardt, certain women just should have won an Oscar for that.
For these awards, bringing out these people that have sort of broken onto the scene seems to be at least a priority for this year, if not for the panel in general. Any comments on it?
I don't think, at least I'm speaking for myself, I don't think I'm necessarily looking for like fresh stirred something in me, wherever that came from. And I think it can be from a newcomer or a more established performer. And I go figure, there are all different kinds of acting, and I think there's a place for all of that, sort of a fresh face doing something new and exciting, or even an established movie star doing sort of movie star acting, which is its own unique thing and can be equally as exciting to watch. So, I don't know, that's my answer.
On that note, and speaking of like people leading on, I'm surprised Margot Robbie was nominated in lead actress for Barbie, because that is a movie star performance and the biggest movie of the year, for example. Yeah, well, good thoughts.
I think Margot Robbie, unfortunately, cycled in the particular role. I think Ryan Gosling was just everyone's fan favorite with Barbie, and that's one of the reasons we met it. And also, we just, I think we're very stacked and like spoiled. I think our supporting actor, two in Charles Melton and Dominic Sessa, I think two best supporting actors, and then also breakthrough roles like Jared was getting at. That shows that you don't have to have a long career, but then Lily Gladstone has been in all these tiny movies, and she finally gets her break at the age of 37. Versus Dominic Sessa was at the boarding school, attending the school that they were filming at, and Alexander Payne was like, "You should try it out. You look like the guy I want." And so it's crazy to see how careers can sometimes take forever, and sometimes it's the luck of the Irish.
And our winner is Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. He joins the ranks of our previous winners, Barry Jenkins for If Beale Street Could Talk, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin. As much as over the year we've talked about Oppenheimer, it's kind of hard to sum up what Nolan did with Oppenheimer. For a director whose specialty is bombast and special effects, he found the perfect marriage of giant set pieces and intimate moments of guilt and reckoning, which propelled Oppenheimer into the sensation that it has become. There's a reason a 3-hour R-rated biopic about science has made $950 million at the worldwide box office, and it's because Nolan's name and craft made it an event in Barbie 2. All of Us Strangers, Asteroid City, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, May December, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And as Best Picture, we have chosen Celine Song's Past Lives. We did good. As our winner for 2023's Best Picture, Past Lives joins If Beale Street Could Talk, Marriage Story, Nomadland, Pig, and The Banshees of Inisherin. In my opinion, Past Lives is a perfect movie, and that's not easy to do. But Celine Song managed to do that with her subtle direction and no perfect screenplay. She made a movie about relationships and how they evolve as her characters evolve. Past Lives isn't a movie about a love triangle, but about the choices her characters make and how it shapes their lives going forward. It's a movie without a villain, without screaming, without any dramatic fights. It's about living and growing, and she takes us on her character's journey, and we get to see their lives through their eyes. And that is why Past Lives is the winner of the Best Picture. It was just a really good year for movies. Looking over, and not saying up to our own horn, but like looking over all the nominees, there's just not really one I disagree with. Maybe, some things I voted for to nominate. I voted for Margot Robbie to get nominated. And so, not everything you nominate gets in.